Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into something a bit different, a special segment we're calling What If from Koala. Basically, we take the sources you've shared, articles, research, maybe even just your notes, and we pull out the key insights in today's focus. It's that huge 8.8 magnitude earthquake, the one that just hit off Russia's Far East near Kamchatka. That was July 30th, 2025, and of course, the tsunami that followed. So our mission really is to unpack what actually happened, the real impacts, but also the kind of hypothetical risks this specific event posed for the U.S. Plus, there were all those interesting predictions swirling around beforehand. We need to look at the actual consequences versus, well, the speculation. Let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to really get a handle on this, you first need to understand the location. Kamchatka. It's a major part of the Pacific's Ring of Fire. I mean, most people have heard of that, right? It's this huge tectonic belt, like 40,000 kilometers all around the Pacific. It's where these massive ocean plates dive under other plates, that subduction. And that process, well, it's what causes these incredibly powerful earthquakes and consequently tsunamis. And just a quick reminder for everyone, a tsunami isn't really a tidal wave. It's a series of massive ocean waves, usually kicked off by earthquakes or big landslides under the sea. They move incredibly fast and surge inland.
Right, that context is crucial. So let's talk about July 30th, the immediate aftermath of that 8.8 quake in Russia. We saw reports coming in about structural damage, some injuries too, though thankfully no confirmed fatalities reported early on. But what really jumped out almost immediately was the Kloshevskoye volcano. It's one of the world's tallest, most active ones, and it started erupting right after the quake, like lava flowing down one side, explosions at the top. It's pretty dramatic, an earthquake setting off a volcano.
It really highlights the intense geological activity there.
Exactly. And the tsunami waves themselves, they definitely made an impact locally over there. I saw reports about the fishing port, Severokurilsk, flooded, waves over 19 feet, washing fishing boats right out to sea. Even if the main city didn't report major damage, that's still a huge disruption. And there was that mention of a damaged kindergarten in Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky as well. Luckily, it was closed for repairs, but still, shows the power.
It does. And on a larger scale, response systems kicked in pretty fast. The Pacific Tsunami Warning System, the PTWC, they issued alerts across the Pacific. A big part of that relies on the DART buoys, deep ocean assessment and reporting of tsunamis. These things are, well, they're out there in the deep ocean measuring pressure changes. They can detect a tsunami wave passing overhead. It gives that crucial early warning, hours sometimes, which, as you can imagine, saves lives. And these messages, they get tagged with flash precedence, meaning they cut through everything else. Top priority.
Right, getting that information out fast is key.
Absolutely. Oh, and a kind of interesting side note, the international dateline. Because of where Kamchatka is, a tsunami starting there can sometimes hit places like Hawaii, technically a day earlier on the calendar than the earthquake itself happened. Just a quirk of crossing the dateline.
Huh. Yeah, that time travel thing always messes with your head a bit. Okay, so speaking of Hawaii, let's zoom in there. Initially, they got tsunami warnings, sirens going off, evacuations ordered. You saw pictures of traffic jams, right? Especially Honolulu. Then, thankfully, those got downgraded to an advisory. The wave heights reported were, up to 1.7 meters? So about 5.5 feet. How does that actually compare? For Hawaii, historically, was this a near miss or more routine?
That's a really important question. Governor Green called the waves not of consequence for major damage this time. And, okay, compared to history, maybe? But you have to remember the big one, the 1952 Kamchatka tsunami. That was from a magnitude 9.0 quake. That one caused serious damage in Hawaii. We're talking like maybe $1 million back in 1952 money. And the run-ups, the height the water reached inland were much bigger, up to 20 feet in some spots. It actually destroyed a bridge over in Hilo Bay on Coconut Island. So yeah, 1.7 meters this time, while not catastrophic, is still significant. The advisory warned about strong currents, dangerous waves, flights got canceled out of Maui, so even a downgrade, it still disrupts things, still poses a real risk, especially if you're near the coast or on the water. And just the act of evacuating thousands of people, that's a major event in itself, even if the worst doesn't happen.
Absolutely, the disruption is real regardless. Okay, let's move north then, up to Alaska. Similar story there, warnings downgraded to an advisory. Alaska, of course, is no stranger to earthquakes. It sits right on some major fault lines at Aleutian and Alaskan zones. But what's also super critical for Alaska is fishing. Their seafood industry is massive. Dutch Harbor, top US port for fish landings for, 26 years straight. And the Aleutians overall are number 2 nationally. So what's the history there with with tsunamis. And what does even an advisory mean for those vital coastal areas in that industry?
Alaska's vulnerability is, well, it's a constant concern. The 1964 Good Friday earthquake is the benchmark, really. Magnitude 9.2.
Yeah.
That triggered a devastating tsunami, caused, I think, 106 deaths just in Alaska, and massive damage, maybe $84 million back then, across Alaska, Oregon, and California. So the historical precedent is severe. And you mentioned the economy. Yeah, the seafood industry is huge. Supports over 74,000 jobs, billions in sales for the state. Think about what a major tsunami hitting Dutch Harbor or Akutan or other key ports could do. It wouldn't just be immediate damage. It could cripple that industry for a long time. Affect livelihoods up and down the coast. No, it's humbling stuff.
Yeah, that economic angle is huge. Okay, shifting down the coast now, the U.S. West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, it seemed like the warnings were a bit mixed there. A full tsunami warning for the Northern California, Oregon border area, but further south, more of an advisory. I remember Crescent City, California, specifically got a warning. They sounded their sirens. And they have a tragic history, right? That 1964 tsunami hit them hard, killed 11 people with a huge 21-foot wave. So what's the bigger picture for the Pacific Northwest? What kind of unique risks are they looking at?
Well, the Pacific Northwest, you're talking about the Cascadia subduction zone, and that brings in what experts call compound hazards. Multiple risks piling up. There's a roughly 15% chance of a really big one, magnitude 8 or more, happening there in the next 50 years. Goes up to nearly 30% by 2100. And if that zone ruptures, a major quake could cause the land itself to suddenly sink, maybe 0.5 meter to 2 meters in minutes.
Wow, the land just drops.
Yeah. And imagine that happening, plus the sea level rise we're already dealing with from climate change. It dramatically increases how far inland flooding could reach. You could see farmlands getting contaminated with salt water. Critical infrastructure, airports, schools, hospitals, wastewater plants swamped. In a worst case scenario, some scientists think coastal communities could become, well, basically uninhabitable for a very long time. Decades, maybe longer.
That's sobering.
It is. And it's not just the mainland West Coast either. We should mention Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. They're also highly vulnerable. They have their own subduction zone nearby. Historically, they've seen tsunami waves as high as 12 meters.
Right. Okay, so we've laid out the actual event, July 30th, 2025. Real earthquake, real tsunami, real impacts hitting U.S. shores, real disruptions. But sort of layered over all this with this other narrative, this what if about predictions, right? Especially that Japanese manga. The Future I saw, the artist Ryo Tatsuki. There was this huge buzz, this rumor that she'd predicted a massive disaster for July 5th, 2025. And it wasn't just fringe stuff. Apparently her earlier prediction from 2011 had gone viral. People were linking it to Baba Vanga prophecies too, about disasters in Asia. What does the scientific community actually say about predicting earthquakes that precisely?
Okay, this is really important. The scientific answer is clear. There is zero scientific evidence supporting precise earthquake predictions like that. Not for July 5th, not for any specific date, years, or even months in advance. Leading up to July 5th, all the global seismic monitoring systems, they showed nothing unusual, no weird tectonic stress building up, no undersea volcanoes waking up unexpectedly. NASA confirmed no asteroids were heading our way. Nothing. Experts, seismologists, they're very direct about this. They've said things like, quote, cities completely sinking underwater is not a scenario supported by geological evidence. And this popular idea you sometimes hear, that all the volcanoes in the Ring of Fire are linked like dominoes, that one big event triggers everything, that's a major misconception scientists are constantly trying to correct. Earthquakes, tsunamis are complex geology, not predictable prophecy.
Right? No scientific basis. And yet, these predictions, even being unscientific, they had real effects, didn't they? I read they caused tourist cancellations in Japan. Local officials were actually concerned about the economic impact. The governor of Tottori Prefecture, Shunchi Hirai, even said something like, interest in coming to Japan is waning. The impact of the rumor is undeniable. So it jumps from online chatter to real-world money problems.
Exactly. And that's where you get into the psychology of it. Things like confirmation bias. People tend to latch on to information that confirms what they already believe or fear and ignore stuff that contradicts it. There's also the Forer effect, sometimes called the Barnum effect. That's when very vague statements seem incredibly personal and accurate, like a horoscope, you know. And social media just pours gasoline on this. Misinformation, especially during potential disasters, spreads incredibly fast. It triggers fear, anxiety, and worse, it can actually interfere with real help. We saw that that in India during floods in Kerala in 2018, a fake video about a dam breaking caused panic, hampered rescue efforts. Or in Hokkaido, Japan, rumors led people to evacuate from areas that weren't actually at risk, which pulls resources away from where they're desperately needed.
That's dangerous.
It really is, which is why relying on trusted official sources is so critical. FEMA in the US runs rumor control pages during big events specifically to knock down false claims and make sure people are acting on facts, not fear.
Okay, so wrapping this up then. For you, the learner, listening to this What If from Kuala, what's the main thing to take away? We've seen the July 30th, 2025 Kamchatka event was absolutely real. The quake, the tsunami, the impacts felt across the Pacific, including U.S. coasts that all happened. Warnings, evacuations, real waves. But those specific predictions for July 5th, not based in science. Yet even those unverified prophecies had consequences spreading fear, hitting tourism.
Yeah, the core takeaway really is understanding that critical difference between scientific hazard assessment, what agencies like USGS or NOAA do, and these unverified prophecies or rumors. Knowing things is great, but it's most valuable when you understand it and can apply it. Being able to tell the difference between verified scientific info and misinformation, that's absolutely essential. It's key for being prepared yourself and for building communities that can actually weather these events, these complex natural phenomena we live with.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. In a world where information travels so fast, sometimes faster than the actual tsunami waves, how do we, as informed people, prepare? Not just for the natural hazards themselves, but for that flood of information, the good and the bad. How do we make sure our actions, our responses, are driven by facts and not by fear?